Hey everybody, Travel and Trav here, labor and the expression of worth, trans-rational blues. Some of you have dismissed me. There are quite a few of you out there who once called me friend who now ignore me altogether. Some of you consider me a religious freak. Someone described me recently as an Old Testament prophet on meth. Their words, not mine. What you think of me is truly none of my business, and this is one of the great lessons of life, I believe. And then, sometimes, we are left to deal with a life lived in exile and rejection. And this is one way that I might describe my current position. I do not consider myself a religious person. I am, however, engaged in a deep study and practice of forgiveness. And the one that we have called Jesus, well, he just happens to be the one who introduced me to this practice of forgiveness. The one who was nailed to a cross without becoming a victim. Jesus is the one who shows up archetypally for humanity as a man who came healing and loving, and in return, we tore his flesh with whips and then drove nails through his hands and feet. I'm not asking you to believe this right now if you somehow have a difficult time with this story, if it somehow offends you. I'm merely asking you to see Jesus as the one that history chose to acknowledge as the healer who was crucified, the one who became the Christ, the resurrected one, through the act of forgiveness. If you are one of these people who has chosen to judge me as irrelevant because the Christ is remembered in me and I in the Christ, well, I forgive you. I have committed my life to the impossible task of forgiving everything and everyone all the time. I find myself incapable of this commission every day, and also, by God's grace, I find myself liberated from my own hate and resentment every day. Perhaps you are someone who chooses to call themselves a Christian. I have no use for the term myself. What I have is a relationship to the cycle of death and rebirth, the crucifixion and resurrection that I know in myself every day. This is the Christ practice, the practice that is impossible without a direct line to the source of all being. In all my inquiries into esoteric spirituality, I have simply never discovered a practice that is more in tune with the heart of reality than the Christ practice. The life of Jesus has come to represent to me the impossible act of forgiving my enemies, of praying for those who hurt me. And as I engage in this ferocious and terrible practice, I am liberated over and over again. Some of you now crucify me, simply by ignoring me, dismissing me as mad, as irrelevant. That's okay. I want you to know that I love you. It hurts, and I forgive you. You, my friend, are forgiven. As painful as this exile may be, I will always love you and forgive you. And this really has less to do with you and me, and much more to do with this flesh, this one we call Trav, choosing to surrender to the true nature of reality, or the one that some of us sometimes choose to call God. So, whatever relationship we may have had in the past, or whatever boundaries you may have established around our relationship, or whatever boundaries I may exercise with you, just remember that I love you. This love is what I choose, and I pray for the courage, the strength, and the discipline to continue in this way, not because I believe that it is the correct religion, but because this is where I discover, day after day, the deepest power I have ever known. This is where I discover my own self-respect, the deepest self. If you meet someone who claims to be a Christian, one of those who believe themselves to be the morality police for the world, you are free to remind them that they have given up that right in their commitment to Christ. I do not speak these words to you today because I am well adjusted to this world. I am one of the sick, one of the broken-hearted, one of those who suffer greatly in this body. And this, exactly, is how I came to know the Christ 28 years ago. It was this same Spirit of Christ in me that caused the green grass and trees to appear greener, and the blue sky to appear bluer. It was the Spirit of Christ that gave one deeply disoriented and disheartened 22-year-old man the courage to participate and learn and grow. And now I am experiencing another death. But don't you worry about me, because I know that death is just an illusion. And this is exactly what Jesus came teaching. If you also are one of those who feels rejected, abandoned, isolated, and alienated, what you have just heard from my lips may be experienced as good news. You are not alone. You are not separate from God. You are not separate from nature, and we are not separate from one another. You may also experience liberation in surrender to this great spirit that we have witnessed in the life of the one who came forgiving. I'm not asking you to believe these words. I'm asking you to practice forgiveness as a means of communication with the one great spirit of life. You are free to try it, to open your heart and experience true liberation. You, my friend, are free.
In the eye of the hurricane, you are always still. Engines losing power, looking for a place to sit down. Man of the hour, oh, tomorrow he wears that thorny crown. The sky will darken and the moon will bend our will, yeah. But in the eye of the hurricane, you are always still. In the eye of the hurricane, you are always